Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right. So I was listening to Ticket TV, and he had everybody concerned last night that something was wrong. KD's missing. KD's not missing. He just went dark like people do in the off season when they want to, and they have a lot of money and a lot of pressure on them. You could disappear. Nobody needs to know where you're at. Doesn't mean somebody did something. Don't mean nothing went wrong. I don't believe nothing went wrong. I've been listening. KD's brother has spoken up, said something. Somebody else around KD had said something, so clearly KD's well-being is not in question. What is in question, though, is where his mindset is. How's he feeling? When I dropped a video yesterday, I told you guys that I came to the conclusion that he's probably have to go through another year of Brooklyn. It's looking like that to me. I don't feel no different this morning. Things can obviously change, you know what I mean? I don't want to make a duplicate video of what I made yesterday, but until a trade of some sort opens up elsewhere to shake or loose some pieces that would make it so that teams can actually slide KD in without it being so much of a hassle, until that time, I don't see anybody taking the risk on the KD that we last saw. Now, KD come out, score 50 points in the first 2 games of the season, he'll be traded by game 3, trust you me. Somebody's going to give up whatever it takes, but they want to see him. All right, I'm not going to assume I'm going to tell you I would want to see him before I make a trade for him. I hear that one organization has a certain type of trade on the table for him, and then would have another trade for him upon being able to meet with him and find out what his intentions are for their franchise. And that's what KD also needs to run into, or is running into. He's going to have to understand that it's now time to sell himself as someone who's going to play out the whole 4 years. See, what you're doing is you're leaving a team that you agreed to stay with for 4 years, and while you have every reason to leave that team because they're not good enough to do what they're supposed to do with you, you also have to understand that on the other end of that, you're not holding up your end of the bargain to the team when you gave away your right to be traded. You did not ask for a no-waive clause, and that ultimately is the problem here. He doesn't have a whole lot of leverage, if any, in the situation, other than his willingness to retire. Which, if you're the Nets and he refused to play for you and you can't trade him for nothing, does not matter. If you retire, you don't. You're still a dead asset if you're not playing for me. If I can't trade you and I can't use you, you're not here. So that's what the Nets are running into. I guess it's the leverage of understanding that KD doesn't have any and ain't nothing he can do. At the same time, it's a lot of pressure on them from everywhere to do right by this player, and most importantly, not gut the entire league trying to get picks for him, especially after the Rudy Gobert thing, which I told you guys the field was going to ignore. That Rudy Gobert trade was trash. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I'm telling you that Rudy Gobert is the type of player right now that you can't play 48 minutes even if you wanted to. Because as soon as he runs into a team that's going to shoot like the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, he's going to be a liability that cannot guard the perimeter. You do not trade any asset for an asset like that. The Timberwolves traded every asset. I'm going to make sure I got that right. Every asset to get an asset like that, and it, in theory, screwed the market up if the market reacts to it. And what I came to terms with is if I was one of those 29 other owners, I'm not reacting to that. I'm not reacting to that. And I made a video on that as well. That was a tip. And what I mean by a tip is if you pay $100 for a sandwich, that sandwich only worth $3. You paid a $97 tip. That's exactly what Rudy Gobert's price tag was. The NBA is not going to react to that. They're not going to react to that. Inflation is real, but it ain't that real. Ain't nobody about to do that. So at this point, you got to look at the situation and say, all right, the Nets, you're not getting 7 picks for Kevin Durant. Not just because Kevin Durant is not worth 7 picks, but because it is too much of a hassle doing so. Sending out 7 picks or whatever it's going to be to bring back anybody. That's franchise altering. And as I said, once you start getting to a point where you're moving assets this massive, it's not just the price tag that's the burden. It's the process of moving them that's also a burden as well. And that's what KD's run into. You know, this is a grade A course on why it's important for everybody to play along with the system itself until the system is fixed. Because if you don't play along, there's going to be some serious imbalances that will be reacted to in your collective bargaining agreement negotiations. And everybody is aware of this, but I think guys are so caught up in their own desires for their careers that they don't realize they create a lot of problems for the field. And as they do, there will be new people who are coming along with who are going to be affected by that nonsense. And that's why I'm of the mindset that KD should bite the bullet, go back to Brooklyn, and be the OG to the youngsters that they need him to be. Don't bust up the market just because your situation is not favorable. You got to be bigger than that because it's bigger than you. And this is going to have a reverberation across the league that affects people maybe for 2, 3, 4, 5 years just because you needed to move. Like, that's the problem. It's like, KD, all of this is happening not because you're not valuable. It's all happening because you are. People are afraid to trade for you because they know it's franchise altering. People are afraid to give up the price tag because that guts them of everything they've been building for the last 3, 4 years. And it guts them of every bit of security that they've been building for the last 3, 4 years for the next 8 years. You know, when you talk about trading away picks for 78, 79 picks, you know, those years, people see what the Lakers are going through in order to improve their team to keep LeBron James. Nobody wants to do that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We already won a championship and we're not having fun doing this. Nobody wants to give up security. You know, we're living in a world where, yeah, a lot of us believe in God and faith, but having faith that you're going to be able to run a $1 billion business when you don't have any assets, nah, nobody wants to do that. Nobody want to do that, bro. Just so you can get to another place, play 4 more years of basketball, maybe win a championship, maybe win 2. I don't know, maybe not. Ain't worth it. When I got assets, 20 years of age, playing at a high level, look like they're going to go on to be full-fledged Hall of Famers already. All they got to do is stay healthy. Why the heck am I going to gut the team for a guy who only got 5 more minutes left to play? At whatever level. And it is the truth, but it's just what we're looking at. At whatever level, pause, plus LeBron James still exists. Meaning that you're not the top pinnacle, even though Skip Bayless tries to tell everybody KD's the greatest player, the best player in the world. The market is going to let him know that there's still one. And his name is the King James. And that means that the world ain't going to move left, right, up, and down just because you want to move. They're not. They're not going to do that. If for no other reason, then simply because the possibility of that person being available right after they do this could be something that's real too. Not to say the Lakers are going to put the King James on the block, because I'm not saying they are, but what I'm saying is Rudy Gobert just went for 5 picks. Kevin Durant's about to be traded at some point. You don't know what's next down the pipeline. The Timberwolves would have loved to have been able to be in the mix for Kevin Durant. Had they known Kevin Durant was going to be on the block right before they traded for Rudy Gobert, I don't even know if Rudy Gobert would be here right now, because they would have kept all those assets to assure they were staying in the run for KD. What I'm telling you is now that KD's on the block, people are going to keep their assets for the next big thing that may be on the horizon around the corner. They don't want to mortgage everything for you, you know, because if a year and a half from now, someone else like Giannis decides he wants out, they need that. They need the money to pay for him. So that's also something that KD needs to work into his equation. It's not as simple as just saying I want out. You affect how people think as it pertains to how they're building their team. You affect how they structure the next 6, 7 years of what they do. And they got to be able to give up stuff that they know is going to give them 7 years for security for you, of whom, even though you're on for 4 years, at 34 years of age, we don't expect you to play this level for all 4 of those years. And then you look at the last time we saw you again. Not exactly a 50-point game. So these are the things that I think he's mulling over. This is why he went dark, because a lot of this is hard to absorb. When you're at his level, you've done what he's done. You don't want to think that you can't move. You're supposed to be able to move. That's what being the greatest is, in theory. But then you start realizing, nah. That's the point. The more valuable you are, the more likely someone's going to fight to keep you. the more likely someone's going to fight their hardest to not give up the price tag that you cost. You feel me? Like, let's just be real. Not everybody want to pay the price tag for a Rolls Royce. I like a Rolls Royce as much as the next person, but I'm not sure I want to fork over the cost for it. Whether I afford it or not, it may not be in my best interest to buy that right now. And that's what KD's at. That's it. You got a whole league full of teams that are in the mix of trying to rebuild. The whole league is rebuilding. You only got like 3 teams that are old. And the sick thing about it is KD's on the one team that ain't trying to build. But all the teams in the league, the one team that doesn't want to rebuild at all, he signed a 4-year deal with. And in normal circumstances, that makes all the sense in the world, because obviously if you're an older player, you don't want to rebuild. So that's the ideal situation. But now you want out of it. That ain't what the rest of the league's on. The rest of the league is on some rebuild. Unless you us, the Lakers. But then you understand that the Lakers just realized the error in their ways and now are trying to redo some of that. You hear Jeannie coming out with statements. You understand she ain't happy. And you think those owners ain't listening to that statement she's put out? You think they wasn't reading that too? They all are. They're all reading Jeannie's statement. They all feel the same way. And it gets to a point where they don't want to fork over this and that for players that they know are going to be leaving in 5 minutes. They don't want to give up assets for years at a time and play luxury taxes and have them $400 and $500 million in the hole just at a chance at a championship. Nah. Now, maybe if you find an organization that can use the revenue, they may be willing. But then you got to sell them on the fact that the revenue is going to be better with you versus what it is they can build through the draft. And looking at some of these kids that's coming down the pipeline, I can't sell that to anybody. Not when these kids keep popping up left and right with these superhuman length and strength and flying all over the place. You're going to give away opportunities to get that. That's why I look at y'all organization with the Nets with that Royce O'Neal trade and I laugh. I'm like, are y'all serious? Y'all giving up first round picks in this era to get role players, and you think that's a good idea? Even if you're win now, even if you do have KD, you think that's a good idea to give away next year's draft picks for any reason whatsoever? It's absolutely crazy to me looking at what's coming. This is a bad organizational decision. But this is why I think older players, and I think LeBron James learned this last year. I think older players need to learn this from here on out. Bump all that I want to play with people my age. That's garbage. You should be wanting to play with them young players just like these teams should be wanting to put these young players together. Seriously. And I think the first superstar that adapts to that mentality is probably going to benefit greatly from it. That dude that decides to go to the Rockets, that dude decides to go to Orlando, that dude decides to go to OKC, they're going to be very happy they did that. Why? Because they're going to age gracefully while those kids ascend into superstardom. And they're not going to lose any credit for leading the kids, even though the kids are going to do the heavy work. Now, that's a path that you have to have faith in order to take, because you know you're going to be dealing with a lot of mistakes when you're dealing with young teams. But what you got to understand is these young teams are not putting together regular young players. They're putting together superstars of tomorrow. That's what it is. They're putting together superstars of tomorrow. So I took a look at a team like Orlando, for example, and I say, okay, Paolo, yeah, he's going to be a star tomorrow. Who else? Anthony, star tomorrow. Suggs, star tomorrow. Like, you need to get on that team and invest in those players and ride the wave. Because as they get better, you on that team will be able to just get easy buckets, easy defensive assignments. They're doing all the fast stuff. They guard all these fast players. You the slowest one on the team if you're the old guy, and you're probably the most talented. It's not a bad thing. Because you're still going to get your shots. They're still going to be looking to you to take the last shot. Like I said, you're still getting the credit for everything they do. But guess what? They doing the heavy lifting. You ain't guarding that tough dude. Nah, they young bodies guarding that dude. And that's why I'm on the mindset like a guy like LeBron James, year 18 last year, 19 last year. He shouldn't want to play with nobody old. What the hell's wrong with you? Play with some youngsters, bro. They going to keep you going. If I'm LeBron James and I'm the slowest player on the team, I'm winning the championship. You understand what I'm saying to you? If I'm the least athletic guy on the team, I'm winning championships. He wasn't thinking that way. He wanted to play with people he could relate to. He wanted to be able to be in an environment that he could sit in. You know, when you get to that point where you where you at, you reach the pinnacle, you don't want to be around everybody. You know, I get that. There's a lot of reasons for that, good ones too, but you playing basketball, you just need the right bodies around you. You can't be thinking about all that. That can't be a determining factor if you're serious about excellence. It can't be. That has to be just a factor amongst others. And the most important one has to be what's going on the floor. You know what I mean? So these are the lessons I'm learning. These are the lessons I'm hoping KD's taking notes on. And look, Brooklyn ain't the spot. I ain't gonna sit here and pretend. They're not. Everything they've done over the last couple of weeks to make me understand they ain't the spot. And they need to make themselves the spot. Simple as that. It ain't about Brooklyn trying to salvage this nonsense. No, they need to reset and do things right for the very first time. And so I've been screaming that for the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue to. But as far as KD's concerned, look, man, it's not about ego no more. You just got to go back. Go back. Go back. And remember that you're the same guy who was drafted to the Seattle Sonics and won, God knows, 25 games his first year. You've played on bad teams before. You know what this is like. I don't think there's a situation where team going to be that damn bad, but they'll be bad enough. But I think, like I said, if he plays good basketball to start the season, he'll be out of there before the month is over. I really don't think it's going to take that long because he's still KD, and once competition starts, teams are going to want that asset on their roster. You know, they can think all kinds of stuff right now about these prospects that they have. Oh, I got this young prospect. He's so great. Oh, I don't want to give him up. No way. When the season starts, they're going to overreact to homeboy struggling. They always do. They're going to overreact to homeboy struggling. They're going to look at KD, going to go off for a 30-point game or something like that, big win. And they're going to be like, yeah, that asset don't mean as much anymore. It doesn't. I mean, he still has the upside, but I want to win now. I think we need to win now. That's what's going to happen. And then what's going to happen after that, as to which the Nets can then turn around and say, well, that asset doesn't hold as much value, so up the price. And they could prolong this process. But by then, hopefully the Nets are tired of this and just want to get it over with and will take the best deal they see. But I see that playing out exactly that way. You know, some of these young guys they just picked up, one or two of them going to struggle. Maybe Chet or somebody going to struggle. They already starting to give you the high and low energy on Chet. Oh, he was so amazing out the gate. Oh, Kenny Lofton destroyed him. Yeah, okay. So I could see OKC maybe caving. Makes sense for them too. If anybody gonna do it, it's them. That's the guy that's gonna be going up in their rafters one way or another. They might as well bring him home. But at what price? I can't say I'm willing to give up all that OKC has if I'm them. I might give up a few of them picks or players, though, because they have so many players and picks that they had to give away players they ain't got no business keeping. That's another reason why they should be in the mix, in my opinion, because once you get to a point where you're waiving Isaiah Roby, you realize you've hoarded too many picks. That's all that tells me. You've hoarded too many. We've gotten to a point where you got too many. And you remember that you're not going to be able to pay all these players. That's the key to that situation. Houston might be in the same spot, to be honest. They might be in the same position. But the bottom line is you're going to have to pick a couple of them players that you know for a fact you're going to pay, and then the rest of them you're going to have to either let walk or trade them away. And so this is a situation where I think it would be wise for those young teams to start really studying in and looking, at those kids with the intent of picking a few of them. Because this is a rare situation where you get to condense some of those players into one of the best Hall of Famers ever. So, like if I'm a young team like OKC, and I know I can't keep both them Jalen Williams, and I know I can't keep this guy and that guy, whoever it is, I will package all of them for KD. I will. And I will bring KD to a situation with Chet and SGA and Giddey if possible. Because at the end of the day, you can't keep all those guys. If you don't let go of one of them now, they're going to balloon to their highest level. They're going to get you all the way to the peak playoffs, and then you have to blow up a good playoff team. That's what's going to happen. That's the fear if you're OKC. They're going to get so close, maybe a year away, but everybody's going to be up for extension, and they can't pay everybody. That's literally inevitable. You see that coming 3 years out down the road. It's going to happen. And so, rather than let any of those guys walk, rather than let any of those guys test free agency or, bring you back a contract that you know damn well you shouldn't be trying to pay, or trading those guys for something that ain't going to be Kevin Durant later on, it might be wise for one of those type of teams to just do something like that. OKC particularly. You're the one. You're the team, OKC, because you got all the picks. You got all the players, and you got too many of them. And the whole league knows it, and KD's your guy. And you got enough talent to keep him happy, because all those young kids, as I said at the beginning of the video, you go right in there and slip right into a good situation. Even if you deplete most of your assets, because you still got plenty of them. Yeah. Maybe OKC, you guys. Maybe OKC. Maybe. Because other than that, I mean, like I said, Houston, I guess my preference with Houston is I prefer their young kids. I'm not quick to let go of any of those young kids, even though they're in the same situation. I have more faith in theirs than OKC's at this point. I do. I just like their core a little better. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't do it too. They definitely can. They got plenty of guards. If they wanted to give up Green, they still got Christopher. If they wanted to give up, Sengun, they still got Smith. Like they got so much young talent, they probably can afford to do something like this. But for them, it's different because they ain't got no ties to KD, and he's just going there to be going there. At least with OKC, he's going there with a purpose. I'm going to go home to retire, to fix this cupcake narrative, and ultimately bring a championship to the Thunder. Finally, before I retire. That's what the goal would be. 4 years OKC. After that, maybe retire or sign a 1-year deal back with him or something. Whatever he wants to do. But yeah, that's what I would be trying to sell if I'm KD's representation. They talk to the OKC Thunder and see what the hell they own, because you know damn well you ain't gonna be able to pay everybody. You just paid Lou Dort. You know you ain't gonna have one of them Jalen's money. You know you ain't gonna have Poku money. Somebody money you're not gonna have. And you still got picks coming down the pipeline next year and the year after that, and the year after that. You can't keep all this talent. OKC, you can't. Give up some of them picks. Bring back your legend. Fix his situation. Worst comes to worst, you flip him for something else later on. But you should be the solution to this issue, because you're the team he drafted him rather. And that's where he should have been in the first place. He should have never left there to begin with. And there's a lot going on with that. You can see many videos where I broke down why I think he should have never left the Thunder. But that wasn't within his control. The Thunder should have chosen him. That's the whole point. But yeah, that's all. You've all heard that before. At the end of the day, man, I don't feel sorry for anybody involved. These guys are very, very, very well off. And if they slow down and really think, they'll realize that no matter what, this contract for 4 years it's a contract to play NBA basketball, and that was a dream once for a guy like KD, just a dream. And if you told him back when he was dreaming of playing ball that he would be forced to play for a bad Nets team under these circumstances, he would be rushing to put on that black jersey. He would not care about any of this. He would just want to get in there to play basketball at the highest level. I think during this moment where he's gone dark, that's what he needs to recapture. There is merit to what everyone is saying in regards to him not having a competitive spirit about him as it pertains to picking situations and wanting to go to them. Now, we've concluded, based on information given to us, that he only picked Miami and Phoenix to troll. Those number one seeds, he was doing that to play against the narrative, I believe, based on that information. However, he did pick Golden State. And at the end of the day, you did pick the Nets, and they're not a good team. Those are choices. And at this point in time, you just got to stick with the choices that you made, whether they're good ones or bad ones sometimes, because sometimes there is no choice. That's, I think, the bottom line. You just got to take what you're given in this situation, even though this is a world full of powerful players. This is not a situation where you have any, and that's just it. But there's a but to this. But you can control. You can go back, put on your best self, put pressure on the organization in productive ways to get you out of there, as you continually have the right to do. And then, from there, the move will be made. It's just going to take its time doing that. And so that's what it is. He's going to have to go back. And he's going to have to accept the fact that his trade request was not responsible for the rest of the league to try to acquiesce to that. It's not responsible to. He's worth the price. But you can't just be giving away 5-6 years worth of talent when the whole league is rebuilding. No, nobody's going to do that. No one's going to do that. And I think Kevin will find out that he can do a lot more than I think he's allowing himself to give himself. The credit to do more with less, I think, is something he needs to give himself. Because you can do more with less. That Nets situation was unique last year because Ben was out and we know how much he represented of their team, coupled with the fact they needed to retool and get some pieces to provide some size and some wing depth and some athleticism, for which I've yet to see them do. Everybody's talking like, oh, the Nets are making moves like they're keeping KD. Ain't nothing about these moves going to help this team in that degree. And I don't know what they have on the pipeline. Of course, they can still continue to make trades, obviously. But if you have the intent of keeping KD, Royce O'Neal for a first-round pick ain't doing it. And bringing Patty Mills' struggling self back ain't doing it either. And that's literally all I've seen them do. Oh, and overpay for a Claxton who's underdeveloped because they ain't developing him properly. Yeah, nah, none of that at all screams we're ready to bring KD back and compete. And that's the part that frustrates me for KD. It's like, even if I tell him to go back there, in most of these situations I say go back there, make your demands. They have what you need. They can get it for you. You just gotta be patient. Maybe they couldn't pay Kyrie, but they can certainly put a team around you that you'll like being on, blah, blah, blah. I can't say that in this camera when I'm looking at what they're doing. I can't say that. I don't believe that. I truly believe that KD is going to be in a situation where the only reason why he should stay there is because he don't have no choice. Like, not because they're doing anything at all. Honestly, I think the Brooklyn Nets, after watching them as closely as I have, now we're going to see what happens. Sean Marks could very well get this right. And if he gets it right, forget this thought. But if he don't, he gone. I'm just going to put that out there. He's gone. I would fire him if he doesn't get this right. Now, I don't know how long he has to get this right. That's up to ownership. And I'm not thinking that out. All I'm telling you is, if we find ourselves extremely unhappy at the end of this, if I'm the Nets, I'm getting him out of there. If I'm Josiah, if that's the name of the owner, I'm getting him out of there. Because this should have never happened. None of this should have happened. And the fact that we're in this space, something went wrong with the vision of the Brooklyn Nets, with the idea of what it is they wanted to be, with the coupling, the pairing of those three players. That situation should have been smoothed out a lot better with James Harden. He should not have just been traded for Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons should not have been acquired if he was broken, hurt goods. That was the biggest mistake of all. That was the biggest mistake. That was an even bigger mistake than how they handled all the stuff. Trading for Ben Simmons when he wasn't ready to play, when you had those win now players, was a death blow. You killed yourself. Just like the Lakers acquiring Russell Westbrook at the beginning of last season, you acquiring Ben Simmons at the trade deadline was a death blow for your team. Couldn't overcome it because they needed the piece that he was. And with him being absent completely, they only had like a third of the team. That's why KD looks so bad out there. Now, if you bring KD back with a healthy Ben Simmons, the dynamic doesn't suck that bad. I mean, it's not the greatest fit, but I do think they'll be a top 8 team. They'll make the playoffs. If they trade Kai for the right pieces, I don't know if you can do that with Russell Westbrook as your point guard. I'm dead lying if I said him and Ben Simmons are a decent fit. That's a horrible fit. It's worse than him and Bron. So if he would end up there, I would tell them to shut him down. Straight up. Don't even put him on the floor. And if you do, you bring him off the bench in lineups where Ben Simmons ain't nowhere to be found. That's one of the worst fits in the world right there. At any rate, when you consider all that they are doing, you don't like the situation. You don't like the situation. It would be better if they could find a way to keep Kyrie. Obviously, at least the fit would make more sense than bringing in Westbrook. But Kai gone. They didn't want to pay him his money. You know, you don't want to play a top talent his money, you're going to want out. You know, and so on and so forth. So we know what it is. We talked about it. 30 minutes of it, I'm sure you're tired of it. So that's what I'm going to leave you with, man. All in all, I wish well for everybody involved. I'm a Laker fan, so I don't have any skin in the game. Obviously, I'm happy to get Kyrie. So whatever's going to get us the best deal for Kyrie is what I'm rooting for. But, you know, just as a human, it would be nice to see an NBA where a guy like Kevin Durant is not unhappy with his playing situation. It would also be nice if players like Kevin Durant understand that once you sign a 4-year contract, your responsibility to play that contract ain't just to the morals of the circumstance. It's to the structure of the environment itself. It ain't just about, oh, you got to stick with the team or you're a competition. Bump all that. We're talking about if you move Jenga, wrong piece moves, whole thing collapse. That's what we're talking about here. BDL 44, I thank you all for watching.